just looking at all the players across this roster after the first 9 games, is there anyone that sticks out to you from a negative perspective or a positive perspective from that matter in terms of the way they've played so far?
I mean, we already touched on Hall and Muzzin. Like, so far they've been disappointing. That's the only way to there's no way to sugarcoat it. Like, they haven't been good enough, and they're good players, so we rely on them, and they have to be good for this team to be successful. I'll focus in on like the new guys. I mean, Conf and Kasha to me have been kind of what we all thought they would be. I mean, they're good defensively. Their transition numbers are amazing. Like, those geeks that keep track of like the defensive zone starts that end up in the other end, like their numbers are A+ in that category. So that's nice to see for what those guys are making. Bunting's got 3 goals. So, I mean, at the end of the day, at this point in the season, you couldn't really ask for more than him. And the thing is with him, sorry.
No, I was going to say 3 goals and 5 points for Bunting. So that's a solid start for him.
There you go. So like for him too, with Bunting, it's obvious because like the effort's there, the drive's there. You see him skating his ass off every shift. So it's great. On the flip side is Nick Ritchie, man. He's been bad. Like, bad. Like, the opposite of Bunting, because Bunting, even if he wasn't producing, he's relevant. He's relevant. And so you would see the effort being made and you would see the contribution. With Ritchie, I am seeing nothing. And comment down below if you're a coach and I'm missing something, but I am seeing absolutely nothing from that guy. You often hear the word ghost being used in hockey. Nick Ritchie has been an absolute ghost for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they paid him, man. That guy got a $5 million 2-year deal, $2.5 million on the cap. And to beat a dead horse, the Leafs have to be careful with how they spend their money because of their big boys. And right now, it doesn't look good. And I will say, like, kind of like with the Bunting thing, like how, let's say he wasn't scoring, I would at least look at it and be like, hey, I see what the management saw. Like, giving this guy, like, things could go well for this guy. He could put up points. With Ritchie, and I don't say this often, I'd like to look Kyle Dubas in the eyes and ask him, Kyle, like, what did you see here that this was worth $5 million spread over 2 years? Like, what did you anticipate? What did you think he was going to provide? And just the ultimate slap in the face was that game against Carolina, because, like, as we mentioned before, how strong of a team we think they are. One of the things that jumped out to me was that when you watch them play, whether it's the star players or the guys you've never heard of, it's very clear when that team has the puck and when they don't have the puck. Everybody has a responsibility and everybody serves a purpose. Every player is dialed in, and you just see, like, it works almost like a flow. It looks like a machine, like, without trying to sound cheesy. And when you see Ritchie, I'm just like, what do you provide right now other than filling a spot in the lineup? Like, am I seeing big hits? Am I seeing forechecking? Am I seeing scoring chances? Like I'm not seeing anything. Like, and we've talked about it in the past, and I mentioned to other friends of mine where you could have told me there's certain games already so far this season, you could tell me that Ritchie hadn't played, and I wouldn't have noticed, because like that little contribution, again, not getting scoring chances. No, it's not going in. It'll go in eventually. No, you're just not doing anything. Like I'd like to see. I don't know if they must keep track of this, almost like individual player puck possession. Cause like in soccer, how they keep track of like touches on the ball. Like for him, it must be, the numbers are probably pathetic. Like, yeah, never has
he's
the
been
puck.
awful.
Yeah, he's been awful. Like, blast him into the sun. Like I'm going to say it, like bad.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. This was a bad signing.
Yeah.
And again, you look back to the offseason and you say, okay, he had a career year. And a career year for him was 15 goals in 56 games for the Boston Bruins. And, you think that he can provide physicality and that grit factor that we all love to talk about, something that we all say the Leafs are lacking every season. And you thought, okay, if he's going to play with the big boys, he's going to chip in another 15, 20 goals, no problem. Sure. But he got a shot with the Leafs' best players early in the season, wasn't doing it. Sheldon Keefe said, screw this, I'm demoting you to the fourth line. And now the Leafs have a situation, like you mentioned, Lepore, where they have a fourth liner making $2.5 million against the salary cap, who's providing nothing. He's got 0 goals, 1 assist in 9 games. He has 11 shots on goal in 9 games. So he's essentially averaging 1 shot on goal a game. And I would imagine that most of those shots have probably come on the second power play unit, because he's been that net front presence on the second power play unit. And that's probably where he got his shots. I'd have to take a look at that, but that's been a disaster. Now, in terms of who's impressed me, I've been very hard on Wayne Simmons, since he's been a Toronto Maple Leaf, but I think he's looked really solid with Jason Spezza.
Yeah, sure.
That fourth line has been solid. And even the third line, Lepore, like you mentioned, with David Kampf and Andre Kasha and Pierre Engvall, I've seen some really good hockey from them as well. And it's funny because everyone loves to make fun of the Leafs for their salary cap situation and how they're paying 5 guys 58% of the cap, and how are they going to make it work? They're going to be signing all these league min players. But earth to everyone, it's been the Leafs depth players that have actually been like some of their best players this season.
Jason Spezza is not a $750,000 player, man.
Exactly. And when you just look at pure production, the issue has not been the bottom half of the Leafs lineup. It's been the big boys who have not answered the bell so far. And the reason that the Leafs currently rank 27th in the NHL in goals per game. So it hasn't been the guys at the bottom of the roster who, quote unquote, Dubas picked up off the scrap heap. Like, just go and look at the stats right now. Like Michael Bunting, 3 goals, 5 points in 9 games. Kerfoot has a couple of goals, 4 points. Engvall has 3 points. Kasha with a goal, a couple of points. Like, again, it's not like these guys are lighting the world on fire, but they're essentially doing what you expect them to do.
They're contributing.
Exactly. And then you look at Mitch Marner. I mean, we've talked about this. Only 3 points in 9 games. Matthews, 2 points in 6 games. Like, who had that over their first 15 combined games this year, that Marner and Matthews would have 5 combined points? Like, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, 2 goals.
5 points, 2 goals in 15 combined games for those two. So it's the top guys in the lineup that obviously have to get it going. So again, with all the new guys that were brought in, I've been pleased, honestly, outside of Nick Ritchie, with how they have played. I've also liked, for the most part, how Rasmus Sandin has looked. And I know there's been moments where he's been out-muscled for the puck. And, again, going back to even last year against Montreal, those were the things you were concerned about with him. But he's creating scoring chances. He's looked good on the power play.
Yeah.
And for the most part, again, it's been their best players that have to get it going. And it's not just the Leafs. There's other teams around the league. You even look at the Boston Bruins. Like, David Pasternak is off to a slow start.
Yeah, I haven't heard his
Tampa,
name.
like they've been struggling. Tampa's essentially a 500 team right now. Like, Colorado hasn't been able to get it going. McKinnon missed some time in COVID protocol, and they've been dealing with some injuries as well. So it's not just the Leafs. There's really good players across the league that have not gotten it going offensively. And you would think with a lot of these star players that as time goes on, positive regression is going to hit. And a lot of these guys are just going to start producing close to or even at their normal rate that they usually produce at.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it is. And I actually saw an interview with Shanahan on the Leafs YouTube channel talk about this, where after the type of regular season the team had last year and after what happened in the playoffs, this team going into the season has to remember that the regular season still matters. And I'm not sitting here saying that like these star players are kind of just putting the regular season in the back of their mind, but I've always said the only thing that really motivates people is fear. And I guess at this point, the Leafs star players don't have that fire or fear in the back of their head to kick up their game a notch. And even beyond the Leafs, like you mentioned, all those other teams. Whereas you look at a Colorado, after the regular season they had, everyone picking them to win the Stanley Cup, and then to go out like they did against Vegas, it's kind of hard to get pumped up for the regular season. And especially when you're looking, and this should be an 82 game regular season. So maybe it's a little bit of that. I mean, it's a discussion as to why some of these teams aren't performing at the level we expect them to. But It's a little different for the Leafs because in Leafland, you're going to get more attention. And when you're making the kind of money those guys are making, you better produce because the vultures will come out, man, and it'll get ugly in a hurry. And I don't think that'll happen. I don't think it'll get to that, but it could. And it wouldn't be pretty if it does because it'll turn quickly. Leafs fans will turn quickly and the media will have a friggin' field day with it.
And it's a tough schedule coming up. And I guess I say tough just based on how these teams that they're playing next week have, played over the last number of years. But they got Vegas on Tuesday, the Lightning on Thursday, and the Bruins on Saturday. And like I mentioned, like if you look at the Atlantic Division standings right now, Tampa's in 4th, the Leafs are in 5th, and Boston is in 6th place.
Great. Those Buffalo Sabres, eh?
who had the top 3 in the Atlantic through the first 7 to 9 games as Florida 1, Buffalo 2, and Detroit number 3.
Wait a minute, then who are we forgetting? What's Montreal's record, Bruno?
Montreal is 2-7. They are in.
That was a joke. That was a joke. Now. I just wanted you to say the Montreal Canadiens record on the podcast.
I figured you wanted me to just mention the Habs there, but yes, they are in dead last with
this
a minus 13 goal differential in 9 games. Brutal.
This has got to be a record for us. How long have we been recording for? And we haven't mentioned the Montreal Canadiens.
I think this is a GFP record for sure. I mean, we always have to get in a Montreal Canadiens jab.
Yeah. Brendan Gallagher.
We almost went an entire podcast without mentioning them. How dare we do something like that?
Yeah, we'll do a Brendan Gallagher jersey giveaway next week to celebrate our accomplishment.
Oh man, these Habs. I mean, we can do an entire podcast on how awful that team has been. You talk about the Blackhawks. I mean, my God, you look at this Habs team as well. They are in major, major trouble. But again, this Atlantic Division has been extremely wacky to start the season. And you can go through some of the other divisions as well. Like who had Colorado at 4-4 right now with a -3 goal differential after 8 games?
Yeah.
Vegas as well. Same thing, 4-4. Like it's just crazy.
I was going to say they've had injuries. They've had a weird start.
What's that, Lepore?
Vegas had some injuries. They've had a weird start too. Yeah.
So there's just some weird things happening across the league.